Peace, love, Black Power family. 3 minute showers here. So, we are late today because we're testing another software, and for some reason, I could not get the encoder to work. So, I had to go back to our original basic. So, yeah, that's where we're at with that. So, we're waiting for Kieaun to get on. He should be on momentarily. I'm a little excited about tonight's discussion because it's definitely something that we definitely need to talk about more. And that's basically, I mean, there's a lot of topics, it's a lot. Okay, so we'll be honest as always, but there's a lot of topics that the Black community does not like to discuss. And so we're going to break those down over the next few episodes as well, or next few episodes and discussions that we have. Um, I think this week we're going to move into and kind of continue the conversation from last week in reference to the relationships or the family structure that we have within our communities, because the family structure within our communities is extremely lacking, and that's something that we really do need to talk about a lot. So yeah, we will. We're going to break it down just a little bit. Let me just a moment. Let's see. Make sure chat is open. All right. So chat is open. Um, so it's been a very interesting week. This build and this journey, I'm very excited that we are having these amateur moments because it's definitely going to lead up to the greatness that we're going to have with this and the vision that we have and what we're working and building towards. So I'm very excited for it all. Peace, brother. How are you?
I'm well. How you doing?
I ain't complaining. I'm not complaining.
That's good. Good.
How was your day?
It's been great. How about yours?
It's been long. It's been extremely long.
Yeah, I mean, I still got a few hours, so I don't think mine is ending pretty, anytime soon. But come along with the territory.
I can dig it. I can dig it. So, um, we had a little. So you remember the software that we were going to use. For some reason, even though I didn't completely set it up, it
Mhm.
still registered with YouTube. And then I couldn't encode it properly and in time. So this is where we are and why we are here.
It's cool. I mean, we make it happen how we got to.
Hey, I can dig it. I can dig it. So I guess we can get right to it. I was definitely opening up to the and basically kind of have over the next few episodes we're going to be talking about a lot of things that the Black communities don't want to talk about, and I think that we're going to get started with our family structure. What say you?
Say that one more time.
That we're going to discuss things that our community don't like to discuss, which we know it's a lot of different things that they definitely don't like to discuss, and just get started with the family structure and the problems and issues, because that leading in from last week's discussion.
I think that's a good place to start. That's the foundation, right?
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think in order to have communities, I mean, I think we all know communities are made up of families. So in order to even get thrive Black community, we would need to have thriving families. Agreed.
I agree. I totally agree. I mean, your foundation is what you build everything on. So if your foundation is not strong, and if you don't have a strong foundation, it, things fall through the cracks. And as you see,
What are
if you look around, a lot of things falling through the cracks.
I totally agree, and I definitely feel that um, the breakdown of our families and even I don't necessarily want to talk about which was the obvious that we do know that a lot of it was orchestrated. At the same time, I think it's important for us to discuss it and what we need to be physically doing in order to see changes that we want to see. So where do you think we should start off with the discussion?
Um, I think to properly define a family, the
Hmm.
definition of it, to give out the proper definition and go from there. Because I think we've gotten away from, we've started to create our own narrative as the years have gone on. Um,
Right,
but I think if we just get back to the definition, back to the basics, you know,
right. I agree.
I mean, that's a very powerful word, and we used to be the best at it. Not so much lately,
Right.
but you definitely used to be the best at it.
I agree. I think that there were times when we had, when you look at families now, especially when I look back at the time period of like my grandparents, even, the grandparents, they kept the family together, and then when those older generations, some that have passed away, it seems like the family has broken up even more so than, even though we had issues, it seemed like the our grandparents and our great grandparents are the ones that were the glue. And I don't think that a lot of us have that any longer. I don't think that we're keeping traditions for family as well. And I think that's a big problem as well because families are definitely affected by that glue no longer being there.
I completely understand and agree totally. I think it's like when you talk about your grandparents and my grandparents, you're talking about a strong people. Um, I'll be quick to
I'm
admit
still
to
here.
say I'll be quick to admit this, to admit that we've gotten weaker. We come up with a million excuses as to why we're separated, but at the end of the day, when you look at it, the fabric of the people, the character and integrity of the people has been weakened tremendously. Um, I think it's like 1965, the children born out of wedlock or to single parent homes was like 25%, and these days we're up at 65 to 75%. So um, you're talking about a decline. It's like we talk about illusions often. We always talk about illusions, and there's a lot of hype surrounding our forward movement as a people. However, if you look around and you see the dismay of your families, how are you moving forward?
Definitely agree.
You
And
understand?
to go back to, I definitely, so let's do that definition. What's your definition? Um, when you think family, what is your definition of a family?
I mean, to me, the family is man, woman, children. I mean, it starts with man and woman. Period.
Right.
You don't build people without the man and woman structure. So
Right.
without that as a foundation, you don't have a family. You can give it another word, but
Right.
family is man, woman, child. And I think the only thing that can change the definition of that is the person that gave us that structure. So for us, as we get weaker as people, we try to change the definition of things to fit our narrative. You know what I mean? And But I honestly believe it has to be man and women, and that's how the children come about. But it also consists of,
Right.
grandmothers and grandfathers. And, when you talk about that separation, you're talking about the separation that affects a whole lot. Because, I mean, okay, say for instance, man and woman, they get together, they have children. If they stay together, those children have children, and those grandchildren oversee that flock of younger children. The way it's happening
Right.
right now is you have a grandmother over here, a grandfather over here, they don't speak. You got the mother over here, the father over here, they don't speak. So you got children who don't really know their whole selves. And I'm
Right.
sorry, but I know that has to affect how children develop. That has to be traumatic for children. And just because
Right.
we're a fabric of people that's strong enough to deal with the trauma, that does not mean you just place it on the shoulders because you had a bad day or whatever. So I think we've gotten away from, we've replaced the importance of family. And the irony of it is, collectively, we still have no money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you just sacrificed all of this for money, chasing money, and collectively, what do you own?
Right. Right. When I actually look up, the definition, which, many people will, try to, some people just break things down, like, why are you using the dictionary? But even still, if we just look at, the definition of family per dictionary, it's the basic unit in society traditionally consisting of two parents rearing their children, spouse and children, a
Right.
group of individuals living under one roof, usually under one head, a household. And so I absolutely agree with you. When I think family, I think of my mother, I think of my father, I think of my grandparents who created my parents, So I definitely know that, in this day and age, a lot of people aren't even close with their family. And this whole thing where you can, family doesn't make, blood doesn't make you family, but at the end of the day, we have to get back to the point, where we do appreciate our ancestry and where we come from, and who we are a part of, and who has made us who we are today, because that DNA is serious. It's not something that, can really be neglected. And I think that we are neglecting it in a lot of different ways.
Well, I mean, just think about the timeline. We're in 2019, right? We talk about how strong it was in 65. You fast forward that 10 years, it was a lot weaker. Fast forward to 10 more years, it was a whole lot weaker. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you're talking about 4 or 5 generations, what I mean, like a few generations later from when it started to break down. So of course, if it, you know what I mean, if something is weaker when you cut it, it's just like, you know what I mean? I mean, people, if you know anything about dope, if you get pure dope, it's pure. But if you keep cutting it, it's gonna be less potent. And that's
Right.
pretty much what has happened to us. We were pure, we were more pure, but we've been getting cut and cut and cut. So now you're looking at a much weaker version of people. And until you
Mm.
admit, okay, I've gotten weaker, you gotta look yourself in the mirror and just say, I've gotten weaker. You gotta shake that shit off, and you gotta get back to what you do. But that has a lot to do with understanding history as well. We don't teach history anymore. We don't teach respect. Like, I know when I grew up in my generation, respect was a big thing. That's not necessarily emphasized anymore. So you got to talk, when you talk about that structure breaking down, you're talking about a lot of things breaking down. And at the end of the day,
Right.
it's having catastrophic effects. I don't care what job you work. I don't care where you say you live. I don't care what educational background you claim to have. If it's not, if you can't see it directly in the people, what you're doing is ineffective. So if you look at where we are now, we talk about the advances that we have in more of a integrated setting, so to speak. However, when you look back at it, when you pay attention to the numbers, we did a whole lot better before we jumped off into the platforms, because what we understood is how to have family. These days we're so educated, we don't know how to have family. You understand what I'm saying? Like you know how to do everything else, but you don't know how to do the family thing.
Right.
And to me, that would be the most important thing to know. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, what the hell? Like, I mean, before they can even read, before they had, college degrees and high school educations, they knew how to do family. Somehow they have
Right.
higher learning, but they don't know how to do family anymore. Like, that's not important anymore. So basically, what I look at it like a people that has sold their soul for worldly stuff. And
Hmm.
and even after they did all the souls, like they want this, I want this. So they work to get this, they work to get that. But it's still an unfulfillment there. And that unfulfillment comes from the fact that you're not serving your purpose at the end of the day. And you're always, I don't care who we are, we're gonna always feel unfulfilled if we're not doing the things we know we're supposed to do.
Right. Right.
You understand what I'm saying? You're talking about a people that
Yeah.
have created pretty much anything. Even under duress, they can come up with they come up with the most brilliant thing. So imagine if they didn't put that duress on one another. You know what I mean? It's one thing
Right.
if some outside influences came to put that duress on you, but that's not what's happening right now. I mean, we can talk about what happened in the days of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and back in the day. Yeah, that was the other side. But in this day and time, the person that's liable to get in your way is probably gonna look like you, and that's what has to be addressed. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Right.
you could help me go forward, but as you going forward, what's your idea? I'm the one tripping you up. What sense does that make?
Right.
You
Right.
understand? And that's what
Right.
happens more than anything. So, what we got to do is stop faking ourselves out. You know what I mean? Because like we discussed earlier, that's a hard thing to actually face what is.
Hmm.
That's a real tough thing to face what actually is happening. That takes bravery. That makes you a man or a woman to be able to face it. Because the cowards, they gonna turn their back and try to make it something else. It's got to be softer. You understand what I'm saying? Because now I don't have to
Right.
address it. So you for one, you gotta be dealing with men and women who are willing to just deal with the truth. And sometimes, as a people, you just got to say, damn, they got us. We got tricked again.
Right.
You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? And then figure out what you gonna do from that point. But to keep acting like you ain't get tricked and you looking at the effects of it, it's like you playing yourself for crazy. You know what I mean? Because like they
Right.
say, the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing, expecting different results. Who could be more
Right.
insane than us right now? We still marching. It's 19, that was happening back then. But
Right. Right.
what we at least had back then was each other. So to me, the struggle is much more real now than it was even back then, because if nothing else, what you had was each other back then. You don't have that right now.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that we do have to acknowledge is being tricked, right? We were
Yeah, you,
definitely
you just got
tricked
to say it.
into, right. We were definitely tricked into thinking that it was okay to be a single mom. You know what I'm saying? That you didn't need to have your man in the home. We were tricked into forcing our men out of the home, and as well, and I only can speak for women. From a man's perspective, you know, you would have to tell me basically, because just for me, for my sake, like we were talking last week, sometimes a fight needs to be had, right? And is it a righteous fight? Of thinking children is a righteous fight to have. But at the same time, in that same breath, we have to realize that we were tricked into believing that we even had to put our men in that place or situation in the first place. And I think that needs to be addressed as well, is the rise of single mothers and how that happened. Because I know I'm not going to blame women for all of those decisions, but at the same time, I also have to hold us accountable for even being tricked into feeling or thinking that we needed to do without our men, because it's not, you couldn't even create your children without them. So how do we start that discussion in a way that, because we're both to blame at the end of the day. However, the things that we are seeing now is because, with our children, the children that are 30 and 40, 20, 30, 40, those things are effects of a woman trying to raise the children all on her own, and she didn't do well, you know, and maybe secondary education, you know, getting them in college, but emotionally we're unbalanced, you know, psychologically we're unbalanced, we are sick in those spiritual aspects of life. And a lot of the, you know, we went through that whole no scrub, no independent, that's in my time. So, you know, how do we start that type of discussion with applying the proper, and I hate the word blame, but holding the proper accountability to each individual within the family unit?
Well,
It's a lot of layers, so I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I mean, it's a few different layers, but I mean, you know, it still goes back to the basics. We have to be men and women and just acknowledge what is. The divide and conquer thing really did have an effect on us. Just
It
like,
did.
you know, you can say, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and blame women for being tricked, because when you think about wicketry, that's, you know what I mean. If you don't know what's coming, if you don't know what kind of attack is on the way, it's easy to get tricked. You understand what I'm saying? Um,
Right. Right.
so I'm not going to blame a woman for necessarily falling for the trick initially. Where I would put a blame on her is to look at it now and to still want to go down that path, knowing that this is not working. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So if like that's the only that's the only blame that I would place on her, is to look around and know this is not working, and to continue to stick your chest out like this is working. Now, in
Right.
terms of the fellas, you know, fellas got tricked up into this whole, you know, pimp this, pimp that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you know, it was like one day they was out partying and you know, having drinks and smoking reefer, and then somebody introduced this new drug called cocaine, and it just tore everything out of the frame for them. You understand what I'm saying? So you fell for foolishness on that end. Another thing, you know, to believe as a young boy that you're more man the more women that you get under your belt. That's even that teaching is a even that teaching is rooted in slavery. You understand what I'm saying, in terms of taking the buck and breeding it, you know what I'm saying? And taking the
Right.
strongest guy and breeding them, et cetera, et cetera. So those things are passed down and continuously taught as well. So men have to stop thinking with their dick, you know, pardon my French, but you know, you got to think with their big head in a lot of cases, and a lot of times that doesn't happen as well. And to me, in both cases, it's low self-esteem.
Mm.
You understand what I'm saying? I believe it's low self-esteem in both places. So, you know, the a lot of the power, a lot of the power in terms of having the conversation and bringing it to the table does lie with the woman. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? A lot of what can be fixed does rely on whether she decides we got to do something different. And the hope is that she doesn't decide it too late, because you know, um, it's definitely we definitely have to have a conversation. But and you know, I I sometimes get confused for the in terms of the campaign that a lot of black women have in terms of being strong, because whoever thought they were weak? You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
I don't think we've ever us as a community. I don't think we've ever devalued our women. Whether we've always dealt with them in the most respectful way, I'm not going to say that's the case, but I think that's another topic for another show. But I
Right.
don't think her value has ever been, oh, well, she's less than me. You understand what I'm saying? I don't, you know, and I can't oppress you. You understand what I'm saying? I don't have the economic power to oppress you in any shape, in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So I think the
Right.
whole energy is misdirected towards me in terms of being oppressed. You understand what I'm
Mm.
saying? So if if that's the attitude toward if that's the attitude toward me, then of course I'm gonna be defensive. You know what I'm saying? And now that starts this whole back and forth thing when in essence we're not getting anywhere without getting along. You know,
Right.
we can talk like, you know, oh, you know, the world is huge and love is love, et cetera, but at the end of the day ain't no love like black love. Period.
Right.
Ain't none.
Right.
Ain't no love like it. So for us to sit back and act like we're each other, we're disposable. To each other, we're
Right.
disposable. You understand what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
what the world has to offer is so much more greater than what each other is. You understand what I'm saying? That we
Right.
ain't never gonna get nowhere with that attitude. You understand what we don't see value in each other. We see more value in a pair of Jordans than we see in each other. We see more value in a damn purse than we see in each other. And that's ass backwards.
Right. I
You understand?
agree.
You un-
And I think that the tricking goes, kind of plays off of each other, right? So we have the
Definitely.
whole, being tricked into, removing our men, right? And then, as you said, men were tricked into this whole pimp mentality, right? But then that also opened the floodgates to this whole culture that we currently still have, this praising of whole culture, which actually takes away from being a mother and being, a feminine woman and being a wife. It takes away from that. And so I think all of those things, together ultimately end us where we are right now, because it seems to be, I mean, I'm no one to judge, and
No,
at the
definitely.
same time, when do we get to a point where, being a hoe is not cute? It's not cute. There's nothing cute about it. And I think a lot of it has to do with because it's something that was encouraged, as well
Mm-hmm.
within single mother homes. And it wasn't necessarily to the fact of, oh, go be a hoe, but you don't need to do this unless you're getting this. It was it was a barter for souls, in my opinion. For, as we mentioned, for things of monetary or money or clothes, or things that have no real long lasting value, because money has no real long lasting value. It doesn't. And soon, currency as we know it might probably won't even be worth nothing. And so we're having these big changes and alters within our communities, within our families, within ourselves as individuals, for something that could be non-existent at any moment, at any moment. And so I think that's a big factor too, is this highly acceptant attitude toward whole culture. I don't think that we discuss it enough, because then if you talk about it, it's like, oh, you're whole shaming, or you're, everybody, anytime you have a valid factual opinion about something, like, if 1 + 1 = 2, those are factual. You can't come back and say that I'm shaming somebody who knows how to do math. I hope that made sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I, I I don't understand the whole shaming, the fat shaming, because as a man, if I ain't got no goddamn job, I'm gonna get broke shamed quick than a motherfucker. You understand what I'm saying? And it
Hmm.
ain't no goddamn complaining
Hmm.
about it. You feel what I'm saying? Get your ass up and get it popping. So the
Right.
whole shaming thing is to keep me from being criticized. You understand what I'm saying? So, if okay, I'm overweight, right? I'm overweight. And you like, you overweight. And I'm just, you're body shaming. Okay, come on now. I'm overweight. God damn it, that's the truth. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? Now, I can either acknowledge the truth and fix it, or I can sit back and be, oh, your body shame. I mean, shit. People get shamed every day. I don't think shame is such a bad damn thing, to be honest with you. I think we need to go
Mm.
back to some of the goddamn shame, and to be completely honest with you. You need to be shamed of some of the shit you're doing. You understand what I'm saying? All this proud
Right.
shit ain't really goddamn cracking. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Um,
Right.
in terms of hoe culture, let's just be honest. Hoes is gonna exist. All right. That was the first profession ever on the damn planet was hoeing. You understand what I'm saying? So that is gonna
Right.
be very relevant. As a matter of fact, if you put 100 women together, you're gonna find more hoes than wives. All right. So
True.
I'm not finna knock no hoe though. You understand what I'm saying? Hoes helped me through some very, very good, hard times in life. I ain't got nothing but respect for a hoe. The problem is when a hoe wanna go in the wife lane. That's when the problem comes in. You understand what I'm saying? Now,
Explain.
like a hoe know she a hoe, just like a nothing ass nigga know he's a nothing ass nigga. You understand what I'm saying? But
Right.
when you know you a hoe, you got the spirit of a hoe, but you playing with somebody's life like you want to be a wife. That's not a good thing. You understand what I'm saying? Because not only are you like, I know women who have been like, I don't want to be no parent. I'm not gonna be no parent. I like to live my life the way I want to live it. I don't want to be nobody's wife. None of that shit. That's honesty. You understand what I'm saying? She want to live her life how she want to live it, and you gotta respect that, right? She's free to do that. But when you know damn
Right.
well you don't have a good motive to be, you just want to be taken care of in life. You don't plan on giving nothing to the situation. And that's even guys. I know guys like that. They don't plan on giving nothing to the situation. They just want to be locked in to something financially. You understand what I'm saying? That's not a good look. You understand what I'm saying? Because what you're doing is you're taking away from what could potentially be a very productive family. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You taking
Right.
away from what could be a potentially very good family. I mean, do your whole thing. You understand? Like I got my whole thing that I do. You understand? When I got my whole thing that I'm on, I ain't doing shit else. You understand? I ain't trying to jump in no relationship. I'm just on some me shit right now. You
Right.
got to be
Right.
honest with your whole shit. You understand what I'm saying? And I think
Right.
that's anybody. And that's where the character and integrity comes in, because deception is a very, very common thing these days. And people are fucking very good at this whole deceit thing. And when you
Right.
talk about deception, they don't want you to talk against it. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right.
we in one of those weird places where, they want their false reality to be yours. And if you talk against that falsehood, then the problem is with you. You understand what I'm saying? So we got, like I said, we got to just get back to being truthful. We're not being truthful about things.
Do you think that, I mean, I have to agree with you. There will always be hoes, right?
Oh yeah,
But
hoes
I
is
do
gonna be
also,
hoes.
yeah, but I also feel that we have so many of them because they were not raised in a family setting,
Oh, we definitely have a
and I
hoe
think,
culture. Oh, we definitely have.
yeah,
We have intentional. We do have an intentional school of breeding hoes. You see it all day.
right,
I mean, I'm not talking to you unless you got this much money. That's hoeing. Unless you
right,
know what I mean. That's
right,
all that. All that. You might not be standing on the corner like no prostitute, but you still hoeing because you're going to the highest bidder. You understand what I'm saying? That ain't got nothing to do with no connection with nobody. That's about a money, and somebody always got more money than the next person. So that's just a cycle. You dig what I'm saying? But
that's a
I've heard
cycle.
I've, I've
I just,
heard those switchings happen.
I would like to see those cycles broken. I think those cycles are necessary, and I definitely get where you're coming from when you can't come from when you say, don't be deceptive and be upfront and so forth. I just feel like how from we're all raising children, so at what point does that culture start to simmer down some? At what point do we raise children to create more families? Because it has to start somewhere. If we keep being so accepting of it or acting like it's okay, it's normal, because it's not normal to sleep with multiple men and take on, this for men and women, to sleep with multiple men, sleep with multiple women, and taking on all these energies and all these spirits from people who, at what point do we actually stop that cycle? Because it's a cycle, but I do feel like at some point we need to adjust and stop breeding so many hoes. I think it's very important
Whew, shit.
for the
Damn.
success, and I think it's for our communities to be a success, for our families to be a success. I think that we do need to at some point, be like, "Ooh, you nasty," period, point blank. Like we can't keep raising and creating more hoes. I feel like that's something that we should be working on as a collective, is ensuring, if, hey, sometimes growing up, some things happen and you got to do what you have to do. You know what I'm saying? But are you raising, the saying, your mama was a hoe, your grandmama was a hoe, generation of hoes. When that's a generational curse, in my opinion. It's not a blessing. It's not a blessing. So how do we stop that development of that culture? How do we do it?
I'm be honest with you. I don't think I could mathematically calculate such a goddamn formula. How do you stop hoes? Shit. Ooh, that's a good question. I'm stuck there. Shit. I'm very stuck there. I don't know how you stop hoes. Yeah, there's a lot of people want to know that. That's a great question. That's a hell of a question. How do you stop? Because I know some hoes that want a hoe. You know what I mean? They can't wait to go hoe. But in terms of building families, families are being built. They're just not being built with the exception of dysfunction in a lot of cases. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Damn, stop hoes.
I mean, stop creating them. You know what I'm saying? We have a whole generation of children coming out. Children that are 10, 12, 13, 16, 20. We have a whole generation that is, evolving as well, even as far as, kindergarten and so forth. We have children that we could actually be moving in a better direction. So, one, I think as adults, we need to make wiser decisions. I think if we made wiser decisions, we would raise more well rounded children. But even if you are in a situation where you are a single father or if you're a single mother, there has to be a point where those things that cause you to be where you are, we stop teaching and learning that to our children. I don't think it's impossible. I think it's going to be a very hard task because if you don't just have hoes for no reason because somebody is facilitating them. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's
Someone
a
is,
teaching.
encouraging them as well. Somebody is falling in line for them to be able to take that same action. You know what I'm saying? So, it's still a man and woman issue. You can't have one without the other. And this type of circumstance either. You know what I'm saying? Like we still need each other even in the negativity.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and in a lot of cases, we do have each other in negative situations. Because sometimes the situations are so negative, we have no other choice but to work together, which is why we know we can work together even when the situations aren't dire. Uh, but I'm gonna tell you now, you can put the best brains on the planet together. They ain't gonna be able to stop home. Uh, I mean, you got to know. I remember being a young man. I remember being a young man, being around and hearing my auntie tell my younger girl cousins that they were sitting on a gold mine. That's what is that teaching? You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Um, I've had family members tell me about, if she got a fat ass, go get it. What is that teaching? You know what I mean? That ain't. I mean, how many black girls got a fat ass? I mean, that's everywhere. God damn it. I mean, fuck. That's not a whole lot in terms of requirement. You dig what I'm saying?
Right,
Um,
right.
so when you talk about when we talk about things like this, this is how situations, in my opinion, the breakdown of the family is how situations like R. Kelly can so easily happen. You understand what I'm saying? Because if the family is broken, if if the
You okay?
yeah, yeah, if the family is broken, for one, it leaves children unprotected.
Right.
It leaves mom working long hours, and now the kids are vulnerable. Uh, it creates a situation to where the parents can't teach children, and they leave everything for other people to teach them about important lessons in life. Um, and once those questions start to pop up, you don't want the wrong person around to give the answer. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So when you think about a situation like that, we think about the time span. Okay, something can go on. When did he come out? 91. He dropped his first album in 91. It's 2019. So
Yeah.
you talking about,
Right.
almost what, 30 years?
Right.
Okay, so think about how something like that can happen for 30 years and the family breakdown not have something to do with it. Because I know
Right.
some guys straight up, if somebody violate their kid and they know about it, ain't nothing stopping them from doing something to whoever violated them. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? But if he don't know, if he's not able to be around to even see what, because just like women know women, men know men. And a lot of times women might not understand the energy of the man. She can be tricked based on some of the things that he say. You understand what I'm saying? But a man gonna be able to see it
Right.
just like a woman can trick a man based on some of the things that she say. But another woman gonna be able to see right through it, right? So
Mm.
if you create a situation where he's not able to be around, now understand what I'm talking about is different than him walking away. But if you create a systematic situation where he can't be around, you also create a systematic situation to where a bunch of children are vulnerable to a bunch of different kind of attacks. And if you notice, they are being attacked in a lot of different ways. They're not just being attacked in one way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because as they're being bombarded with propaganda, who's around to help them decipher what it means? So that it's left up to them to just sit there and figure out what this means. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? Once the boy or girl turns 12, 13, and they start having these adult feelings, what we try to do as humans is suppress them and tell them to wait till they're 19. That's not really how it works. You got to start dealing
Right.
with that. And if you're not
Right.
around to deal with it, you can't deal with it. You know what I'm saying? Like we saw the documentary. How many people said, well, my mom was working a lot. My mom was working a lot. My mom was working a lot. That was one of the
Right.
reoccurring themes of the entire thing. My mom was working a lot. You understand what I'm saying? Or, a single parent. So if you think about that, if you want to fix stuff like that, you have to first start with the foundation. It's a lot of stuff that we complain about every then what you have is those situations to where, okay, like you remember when you were young, a neighborhood that your parents was close and so everybody grew up together, knew somebody's kid, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Once you create instability, you create a lot of different movement around. So now nobody is even able to know who your kid is. You don't even know who your
Right.
damn. So we're not familiar. So we can't have neighborhoods if we don't have families, and we can't have communities unless we have neighborhoods. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? So you talk, like I always hear about the black community, the black community, the black community. How the hell do you have that if you don't have neighborhoods? And how do you have those if you don't have families? So to me, it's like trying to put the cart before the horse. And the reason, in my opinion, the reason we're trying to put the cart before the horse is you don't want to acknowledge the wrong parts of just the foundation, because what that means is what I've been learning over these years is just wrong. And now I
Right.
have to go relearn this. And that requires work. Now I got to do some damn work. I can't sit back and just point the finger and say it's this person's fault. I got to do some shit.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of
Right.
people get stuck. They don't want to have to do the work. It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to do the work. Even they want relationships, but they don't want to do the work. They want the
Right.
benefits
Right.
of it, but they don't want to do the work. You understand? That's all of it. But if you're gonna have
Right.
that, that's gonna be work every day. So if you ain't willing to work
Right.
every day, if the only person like in my opinion, just based on observation, most people when entering relationships, they're going into it trying to figure out what they're gonna get. But relationships are
Mm.
based on selflessness. So you're supposed to go in to figure out what you're gonna give to the situation. Because if
Right.
I'm talking about getting with a woman and in that particular union, she's thinking about her and I'm thinking about her. Who the fuck is thinking about me?
Right.
If I'm
Right.
thinking about me and if I'm putting me first and she put me first, who's thinking about her?
Right.
So you're talking about a selfless situation where selfish people are trying to enter. You can't be successful in a relationship with all the selfishness. And to be honest with you, my community takes pride in spoiling their children. Who the hell you
Right.
gonna, how the hell you gonna get along with somebody if everything all your life was me, 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 me? You understand what I'm saying? When the last time you reached for spoiled milk or spoiled ice cream to eat? Nobody wants that shit. So why do we take
Right.
so much pride in that foolishness? You understand what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's so
Right.
when we talking about that, we just talking about just the basics. We've gotten
Right.
so far away from who we are internally in terms of our internal clock, meaning no book could teach you about this. This was all instinct. You understand what I'm
Right.
saying? This was all feel. You was just so in tune with your spirit. You was feeling your way through this dark place.
Hmm.
Now somebody done so-called turn the lights on for you, and you just can't. You ain't even in touch with that thing no more.
Hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? You're not
Whew.
even in touch with it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think
I
that
think
rabbit hole goes
I,
deep.
yeah, I about to say that's a big pill to swallow, as well, because it won't work being
It's,
selfish.
you're
You know
not
what I'm
gonna
saying?
listen. You're not getting nowhere being selfish. How you gonna be on a team and you don't never pass the damn ball? You
Right,
you don't
right,
even trust
right.
your teammate. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm a big sports
Catch the
fan.
rebound.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm a big sports fan, big Michael Jordan fan. Michael Jordan been the best player since he entered the league, but he didn't learn how to win until he trusted his teammates.
Hmm.
I know of many situations where people enter a union not trusting it. What's the point in entering?
Right,
You
right.
understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you talking about a team
So why
sport.
do you feel?
Go
So,
ahead.
I guess that's right. So let's say you're entering in something without, why? I think that's something that needs to be addressed as well as, how do we address these trust issues? I think that so many, we were talking in prep, so many people, you break up in a relationship, and it may have been a toxic relationship, and you don't take that moment to heal for yourself. That saying, you get over another man by laying up under another. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Again, in my opinion, that's whole culture. But in the same token, we're not giving ourselves the proper time to heal so that we are able to trust. Because how can we ever trust if we're not, for a person, if a person doesn't know, and it has a lot to do with self. It has most to do with self, right? Because if I don't know what I need to to thrive or to be happy, if I don't even know what I want in any type of relationship, then how can one expect to have a successful relationship? Because even as friends, there has to be some type of expectation. And so are these expectations of what a relationship is that, I think that's also a problem. A lot of times people have a false sense of reality when it comes to what a relationship really is anyway. You know what I'm saying? They don't even really know. One, it goes back to these single parent homes. If you've never had an example of what a relationship or what a unit of a man and a woman working together for an ultimate goal for the unit, for the family, then it's harder to identify what it is that you need in order in a relationship, or what you bring as well, what you bring to a relationship. Because the things that I need, are also things that I need to be able to bring to the relationship as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I'm in total agreement. I mean, in most cases, when it comes to us, if we do come from single parent homes, the only thing we have is an idea of what a relationship is. In most cases, we have not seen mom and dad run into a problem and sit down and figure it out. We don't know what that process looks like. In
Right.
most cases, what we see is it went to the left and everybody is mad. So that's the only thing we know to do is get mad and go to the next situation.
Hmm.
The healing part is very important. Like I know right now, I'm in what my 18th month just being on some me shit. You understand what I'm saying? Because I came out of a relationship that didn't necessarily work. But what I know is going into the next one, I don't want to carry the baggage from the previous one. You understand what I'm saying? Whomever the next person would be deserves great energy from me. You
Right.
understand? You can't go in with this dull ass beat down energy like, oh, fix me, oh, hey, fix me from my last, but because that's bullshit too. You can't expect a person to repair you based on some previous shit somebody else did. You got to take your time to go in your damn corner and heal. It's no different. Like you said, they teach women to get over one man, you jump under another. That is whole culture. So we could think of 6 or 7 different goddamn regular sayings that contribute to this whole teaching that we're giving. School ain't teaching this shit.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And then when it comes to certain histories that we have as a people, we ain't teaching that shit, but we show teaching this particular culture. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not like we can't be influential over our children. You understand what I'm saying? We can be very influential over our children. We're just not putting the energy into that shit. You understand what I'm saying? Because a lot of times people are only teaching what they know.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Let's break it all the way down. Okay, you got a woman who is a single mother. She has to raise her children. If all else fails, she got something she gonna sell. She got something that can sell. I don't give a damn if everything else on the economy is something gonna, you know what I mean? That's gonna move. You understand what I'm saying? So what the man in most cases historically has provided was the survival skills to keep her out of that position. But if she got 4 or 5, if she got 3, 4 kids at home and they starving, she finna figure that shit out. You understand what I'm saying? And sometimes the situation can be so dire, she might just have to go and bust it open. You understand what I'm saying? And how can you blame her if that's gonna keep her young, her if that's the only thing she knows to keep her seeds fed? So a lot of times they're passing these lessons on just based on that. You understand what I'm saying? Not knowing anything else, but that doesn't mean we can't learn. And that's where you got to put a blame on someone, because it's one thing to not know. It's a whole other thing to be unwilling to learn and make the adjustments. That's where you can put, that's when you can put the fault on the shoulders of the people. If I realize that they putting a system in place for me to trick me to not like you, once I realize that that's in place, it's time for me to say, wait a minute, bag up, and then you move forward. But to sit back and be like, yo, I know that's in place, but fuck that. It makes me look good as long as I'm okay. And that's what you see right now. Like, yo, as long as I'm okay, fuck everybody else. That's what you really see. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of the dismay, like me and you talk a lot of times, and you've been frustrated in terms of the attitude Black men have towards Black women. A lot of it is the fact that she's on, and her on means fuck you, I'm good. If he on and he's connected with her, they good. You understand what I'm saying? If this man got a woman and he make $100,000 a year and she make $30,000 a year, that ain't finna be no problem to him. If he make $30,000 a year and she make $100,000 a year, that's gonna be a fucking problem for her. You understand what I'm saying? So you're talking about in one situation where, I mean, and I can give another analogy. Like if I'm riding up the street and I see a girl at the bus stop, all I see is a girl at the bus stop that I like. I'm liable to pull over and say, hey, how you doing? We can, you know what I mean? I got a car. We can talk in here. If a girl see me at the bus stop, see that nigga at the bus, she might say, that nigga cute, but he at the bus stop. You understand what I'm saying? So you're talking about two different mentalities on a particular person. Now, I have had situations I was at the bus stop, chick pulled up like, yo, where you going? You dig what I'm saying? That does happen. You feel what I'm saying? Those things do happen. You feel what I'm saying? Yes, but the likelihood is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So
the prejudgment is what's happening more than anything, and going back to, the value that we hold on money. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And I think that just like you said, if coming up, you saw your mom struggle, you saw your mom, not eat so that you can eat, that puts, money does become important to you, because it's how you were able to, right. I mean, money is, is necessary. You know what I'm saying? It's just the importance of money is not being taught properly. And because even in that type of situation of being able to feed your children, there's a lesson in that for your children, because we are here because of decisions that mommy has made. We are here because of decisions that daddy has made. Let's make sure that as we move forward in your life, is that, you know, we realize we have to teach our children that life is about decisions. So one decision can affect your entire life. You know, the situations and the struggles that I've been through, you know, I've used that as a catapult to teach my children that, yo, the decision that mommy made is why we in this struggle right now. So we need to ensure that you do not take this same road, that you do not go down this same type of cycle of making these decisions or making decisions without thinking them through. Because
Okay.
things that happened 5 years ago, you know, the things you were doing 5 years ago is why you where you at right now for everyone. It didn't just happen. It did not just happen. Decisions we made 5 years ago are a reflection of where we are today. So what are we doing now? If you have children who are, you know, 12 or 15, what are you doing now so that when you are 20, you can actually be in a different place, in a different space? You know, because I think that even though, yo, we all might have went through things, but we should have learned something. It's one thing to actually learn a lesson. It's another to actually apply it. And I think that a lot of these times we're learning lessons, but we're not applying the lessons that we're learning to our life. We're not having application of those things that we've learned. We're just learning things and, you know, hey, you know, I learned I shouldn't do that. However, we're not applying it because we're not, like you said, like, you know, you have a toxic relationship and you jump into another one. That, in my lifetime, you know, I used to go to a therapist because I had a lot of, you know, a lot of life decisions that I made in duress. I made when I had emotional things happen to me, and you know, I was not healed. So I made decisions based on being under duress, and that has
I can
not
relate.
resulted positively in my life.
I
But
can relate.
I really had to take a moment and look at that. You know, even in my in the beginning of my adult life, you know, my virginity was taken by a rapist, and I jumped into a marriage right after that. You know, and I did it for a lot of reasons to prove to my husband at that time that, yo, that really, I really was, that really something horrible happened to me. I was trying to prove a point to him instead of healing myself properly to even be a good wife to this man. You feel what I'm saying? So even when I got married, because I've been married twice, when I got married the second time, that relationship started after the loss of children. I gave birth and they died. And so I jumped into another situation after this emotional duress, which I at no time was prepared to. At no time what had I healed myself at all. I'm looking for someone else to give me something that I didn't have at that time. And so when do we stop? When do we stop and actually say, okay, this was the lesson. I learned it. I see it. Now, how can I apply that to my life? And so I think a lot of those things, especially at the age as we get older and we have children that are coming of age, that we need to actually make sure that our children are applying these lessons to their lives. And I think that a lot of that is not happening because if you are a single mother and even a single father, and even if you are able to co-parent, you should be working together as a unit to ensure that your child does not have this type of situation. You should be working and giving your children the tools and helping them in making life decisions so that when they do get to that point of being with someone and creating a family, that they stay as a family, not the same old, hey, you know, my mama was single, my grandmama was, well, a lot of times most of our grandmothers, they weren't single. You know, that's only been happening over the last, I'll say, 3 or 4 generations. That's very still very new. I'll say, like you said, 65, 70s. That's still very fairly new to our culture. You know what I'm saying? So when does the buck stop?
Well, you know, we got a young ass grandparent these days. You know, them grandparents.
That's true.
My grandmother had gray hair and shit, but it's, you know what I mean, she was gray headed. Yeah, there's some grandmothers out here that, you know, they young and they gonna get it cracking. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that has a lot to do with a lot of the results as well. You know what I mean? Because you're talking about children, and it takes a village. We don't have villages. You
Hmm.
have individuals who drop their children off to strangers and hope something doesn't happen to them. But
Hmm.
these same individuals are adults who could properly construct a village to ensure that their children are safe if they took the proper
Hmm.
time and made it a priority to do so. If you emphasize the right
Hmm.
things. Um, you said something else.
You know,
You were talking about conversations earlier.
well, let me just interject with that village thought process, because that's definitely something that is dear to me, because one, even no one person can raise a child. It's
It's
just,
impossible.
it's hard as hell. I don't know where I would be in my journey without my parents, without my aunts, without them having a moral fiber that they were able to, I teach to my children, and my mother was able to reiterate that. My aunt was able to reiterate that. So it's, because sometimes, children don't want to hear stuff from their parents. You feel what I'm saying? So that's very important. I think one of the biggest reasons why we have been pulling away from this village mentality. It goes back to being selfish. Like, remember we were talking earlier how neighborhoods, everyone knew each other and so forth. The next door neighbor could discipline your child. Now if your child is in the wrong and I say something to your child, you ready to fight me because I'm correcting your child who needs to be corrected, that they need to be corrected. And so, it's a difference between disciplining and correcting and beating on a child. Because, I definitely am not the one to say I should beat on somebody's children. That's definitely not what I'm saying, because people are sensitive in that matter. But if we were raising children, because I don't beat my children, I have very good children. So if we're raising our children, we should be able to have a communication. We should be able to step in my old neighborhood. I was able to step in and say something when something was wrong. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of our communities are not having, you can't even say something to a child when they're wrong. And we need to get back to that rearing of our children as well. But how can we, if we're not having neighborhoods and proper communities? You feel what I'm saying? I feel like that's another reason why, people be so offended when your child acts up and your child does something wrong. If somebody not going upside their head, but they really want to have a constructive conversation and they really want to constructively correct them, people are having a problem with that as well. So it makes that village mentality, it makes that village, that feeling, it's almost non-existent, because motherfuckers don't want people to say stuff to their children. And, that's sad on so many levels, in my opinion.
Well, you can understand why people are abusive towards children. So people, parents are very protective of their children these days. Um, Living in the day and times we live in, hell, if your child doing something, hell, you can't even discipline. You got to watch how you discipline. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
But I also feel like all that spanking and beating is
Right.
overexertion of a parent. I believe that is some shit that stemmed from back on the goddamn slave plantations. And I
Right.
believe it creates more traumatized children than it creates good children. Because
Mm.
I believe if you have a strong village, I really don't think you have to do all of that. I think you have
Right.
enough people around to reiterate the right lessons. Therefore, it steers the child in the right direction naturally. So whether the child is talking to his mom, the lesson is the same. The dad, the lesson is the same. Granddad, the lesson is the same. The uncles, the lesson is the same. Because you have
Right.
this village, you understand the objective. What you have now
Right.
is a bunch of separation. And I'm gonna keep it 100. The whole blended family thing is really like a shot in the dark. The success rate of it is not so goddamn high. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're having trouble with the nuclear family, right? If you have a trouble with the nuclear family, you meaning the man who created the child, the woman who created the child, they're having trouble, right? So what happens in most cases is you start to involve outside people before you fix your issue. So now it's confusing. You understand what I'm saying? Because you have where it's supposed to be a mother and a father with an objective and a structure for a particular child. Now you have four people with all these damn objectives, right? So you got
Right.
you got the mom, and then you got the dad, then you got her guy, and you got his girl. So now you got four people who already ain't on the same page, trying to send a child in a direct. And for a child, that's very damn confusing. You know, they only children. You know, and then another thing is a lot of times we put emphasis on how strong we are as a people, and we are very strong. You know what I mean? In order to be here on this day, in order for you to be here and for me to be here and to be descendants of the people that we come from, they had to be the strongest people. We're the ingredients of that, right? However,
Right.
that does not mean that the strongest people cannot be weak at times. That does not mean strong people cannot be confused at times. So all of the, strength is shown throughout a community. Right now, no strength. We're not looking strong at all. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? That's why it's a bunch of hype. I'm strong. I'm this. You ain't gotta say you're strong when you're strong. Somebody can
Right.
see.
Whew.
Somebody can see you strong. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you have
Right.
to, like you don't have to emphasize any of that. Somebody will be able to
Right.
look and say, "Damn, that's strong right there." You know what I mean? Like real talk. Like when I seen Arnold Schwarzenegger for the first time, he never had to say, "Yo, I'm strong." You could just see that motherfucker strong. You know what I mean? You could just see strength. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think as long as you're under the illusion that what is weak is strong, I
Mm.
think you'll continue to go down that same path, because you have to also think we've also been tricked into thinking one could be stronger than two. It's mathematically fucking impossible. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying? And neither one, man or woman, is whole without the other. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? You can only be whole connected to the other person. You know what I mean? It's a connection that is
The
gained
plug in the
through.
socket. Right.
Absolutely. It has to, you can't be whole without it. So if you're under the illusion that you could be whole, then you might go down that road. If you're under the illusion that what you have is a family, even though it's broken, you might think that does it resemble strength, but strength is when you keep it together. A
Mm.
strong glue keeps it together. Strength is not when it falls, when you just let it fall apart.
Mm.
If the top of the seat come off of my dining room chair, I'm not looking for a weak ass glue to put it back on. So
Right.
you can't make it like, oh, what's strong is what's standing alone and enduring everything. That's not fucking strong. You know, I mean, keep it 100. You dig what I'm saying? What's strong was the person who had the ability to keep it together. Because
Mm.
in order to be strong and keep it together, you had to be psychologically strong. You had to be emotionally strong. You had to be strong. People are so fucking fragile. They'll step into a situation, and the first thing that goes wrong, they're on to the next thing.
Right.
You understand what
Right.
I'm saying? Think about that. So you stepped into a situation walking on a tight rope, like, the first time you fall, goddamn it, this is over. That's not even even that is foolish to think that could be successful. But that just talks about, that just shows the level of how it just shows how fragile a person is. That means sit in the corner and heal. Go over there and heal first. Get stronger first. You understand what I'm saying? If you in a fight and you get your ass beat down, don't jump right back up and go to the fight. Take a couple days and heal for a minute. Get you some rest, get you some fluids, and then come back to the ring and do it. Don't do the shit that day. You know what I mean? You ain't got it in you. You got to be able to say, I don't got it in me today. I took that L. I go do some push-ups. I'll be back in a couple days and we'll get back to it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Right.
if you know you weak, you got to be able to say I'm weak, and to try to play like I'm strong when you know damn well you're not looking strong. You're not looking
Mm.
strong right now. You know what I mean? Right now we have a combination of men who may be physically strong, but they're emotionally weak. They're mentally and emotionally weakened. We have
Right.
we have a woman out there who may be extremely strong, but she's weak. You understand what I'm saying? And the reason that they're weak is because they're not connected to one another. They're not rejuvenating one another. They're not recycling one another. And they're looking
Right.
for this type of shit outside of each other. It's not
Right.
gonna happen.
Right.
That difficult goddamn woman across from me, I'm gonna have to figure out how to deal with her. that difficult fucking man across from you, you're gonna have to figure out how to deal with him, because you're both difficult for the very same reasons.
That's deep.
You understand why. I got a better understanding of why you pissed off, and you got a better understanding of why I'm pissed off. If I get with somebody from outside of my community, they don't know what the fuck. They got a different struggle. Their history is different than mine. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But yours and mine is pretty much the same. So for me to be like, yo, fuck you, I'm better than you. Yeah, I'm better than you. No, that pretty much that's really not how it goes. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
That's just not how it works. So, you know, as long as we thinking that that's a possibility, because we've seen it, we're looking at it. You understand what I'm saying? You're not going. I know for a fact I'm not going nowhere without her.
Right.
I don't know if she understands that just yet, but she ain't going nowhere without me. You understand what I'm saying? I be seeing the little groups and all that. You're gonna have to include some people in that. You know what I mean? You gotta get your guy to the table. You know what I mean? Don't underestimate your guy, because let me tell you another thing, right? School can't teach you a higher degree of intelligence than what's already in your DNA if you tap into it. No man can teach you higher than how you've already been programmed from the Most High. You just ain't tapped into it because you're not trying to.
Right. You're refusing to in most cases. Right.
Yeah, you see it all the time. So you can be educated on one level, but that has nothing to do with intelligence. Intelligence comes from a higher source. You can't pay for that shit. You understand what I'm saying? And some of the poorest people have been the most intelligent throughout the world. When you hear about great things that happen, it comes from probably the most poorest place on the planet.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And I'm talking about some when you think about fashion, who creates the dopest fashion? Who creates those trends? People from the ghetto. Poor people. Who creates the musical trends? The poor people from the ghetto. I don't care if it was Motown or hip hop right now. It was poor people from the ghetto.
Right.
Which lets you know there's a lot of wealth where you are. You just ain't tapping into it because you looking at they stuff and thinking that's what the wealth is.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's where the big trick comes. That's the trick right there.
Right.
That's the whole trick right there. We see them all around us. When you look at how Serena Williams plays tennis, when you look at how Tiger Woods plays golf, when you look at how Jay-Z is doing what he does, you see genius in so many of those places. But that doesn't mean we're not hurting. That doesn't mean we don't need areas of healing.
Right.
You understand?
Well, we definitely do. We definitely do. Because even a lot of the art and a lot of the music that we produce is from pure pain. You know what I'm saying? And it's from pure struggle. You know, a lot of great music, right? A lot of great music was developed in pain. You know, a lot of people, like as an example, Mary J. Blige, you know, a lot of people, you know, her best albums is when she was going through pain and when she was, you know, and for me, I find it, you know, as a sense of healing for her. You know what I'm saying? But it's almost like we, you know, I don't know. It's so much. And I do feel like addressing blended families is a good, you know, something that we definitely need to kind of break down a little bit more, because so many are in that type of situation. Even if if you know the parents of our children are no longer together, at some point that is going to happen if it's not already happening. So we need to figure out how to open that discussion, because it needs to be discussed more. Earlier today, I was having a discussion with someone, you know, and, you know, based on what I've seen in my life, you know, some people don't see it the same way as I do, because I feel as if, you know, if I am married to a man who has a child, I feel that me and the mother of his children, we should have some understanding. We should be able to get along. We should be able, if there's a problem, we should be able to call each other and talk about it. especially when we have children involved, because that's how you raise well-rounded children. Our children already, most children want their parents to be together. And so if that's not happening, we still need to be at a place where parents are able to work together for the benefit of the children. And the children need to see that, because that's another way that we can stop this cycle of having blended families, of having children who grow up and have a child and end up with a baby mama or a baby daddy. At what point do we stop that? How can we stop that? And I definitely feel that being able to conquer, or being able to develop proper relationships within those blended units, I think that's definitely something that that could be a goddamn workshop, because I think it is a time and a place. Because when I talked to a brother, it was a post last week, and and I'm not sure, I think we posted it on Instagram, but it was a open question, and basically the sum of the question was, it was a man and a woman who were married. They had a child, right? Their child was 5. She had 2 children from a previous relationship, right? Now, the father of the other children are active in their lives. They come and get them every week, whatever, and so forth. And, one day he asked, could their child come along with his brother and sister? So this man in this example was like, he felt that was highly disrespectful for him to ask that.
Damn right.
I would have to, I think at 5, I think 5 may be too early, but I feel like, if my child, what if his brother and sister want him to come with them? What's the problem in that?
See, that's where it gets tricky right there, because every man is his own island. That can start a war right there. You don't want war. You don't want war. You understand?
Of course not. However, if my husband and the father of my children are on the same page in reference to how we're going to raise, because his children live in my house, why don't we have some form of relationship? Why am I not, or even a woman, if the father of my children got married, and my children live with him, why do I not know this woman? Because they're going to be around my children more than I'm only got them on the weekend. Right? So why don't I know who this woman is that lives with my children, who has a day-to-day influence on my children? Why, why is that? So maybe the child doesn't go. If I think 5 is too early, I feel like, possibly, but I also feel like there has to come a time where the children's father and the husband really should have some sort of relationship.
They already got a relationship. They share a woman. That's as far as it goes. Now, every man is his own island now. I mean, and he got his own direction for his own. That's a lot going on. You just described. It's a lot going on.
It takes a village, though. It takes a village.
But I don't know. I don't know. The jury's still out on that one. You dig what I'm saying? That's a different topic for another, but that right there, no, you don't okay that one right there. That's a very sensitive topic. I know if you come to me, and I got one son, right? Don't come to me. Don't tell me about your husband and all that. No, that's my son right there. You dig what I'm saying? Until we sit down and have a respectable conversation between men. Now, you ask, why doesn't it happen? Typically, when people enter new situations, they enter them disrespectfully in spite of. So it's not a situation to where it's a healthy entering, which...
Right. I will give you that.
It's not a healthy entering. It's like, well, fuck you. I'm finna show you, and I do what the fuck I want to do. So it's not healthy at all. It's not like it happened healthy. There was a need there, and somebody hopped on a need, and it all started off wrong and disrespectfully. What you're saying is very possible. As a matter of fact, I used to date a woman who, she was the man who was raising her was her mother's husband, who her mom had passed, I would say about 6 years after they got married. He had no children. And to this day, he's in the lives of all of her children.
Right.
So he said, I've been around them when they was all sitting, when her biological father and him was all sitting at the table getting along like it was nothing. So I know it's very possible. The problem is we black. You know, let's come on now. We got to call it what it is now. I mean, in a perfect world, it's beautiful. Let's keep it 100. But you know, we spoil, we selfish. You know, everybody's a superstar. It didn't happen for me, so it ain't happening for you. Fuck that motherfucker. They ain't better than me. It's a lot of ego shit, a lot of bruise, you know. So it's a lot of bruised egos. It's a lot of low self-esteem. It's a lot of shit that go along with that. But what you're saying makes absolute sense. It should be like I don't think I should be involved with a man's children unless I've sat down with that man to figure out what direction are you trying to send your children. Therefore,
Right,
I can
right,
keep it on the page that you want to keep it on. I'm the
right,
assistant to you. You the first in command. These are your children. I'm
right,
here. I'm here to.
right,
I'm here to help you enforce that. You understand what I'm saying? What happens in
right.
most cases is whoever she's fucking is the daddy at the time. That's not a good thing. You know,
No,
I
it's
can only
not.
speak for myself. You understand what I'm saying? I can only speak for myself.
Right.
A lot of times, my dad didn't even know what the hell was going on in my life. You
Hmm.
understand what I'm saying? So how can he properly make any calls if he don't know what's going on? And that's a lot of children. You understand what I'm saying? So
Right,
again, you have to be respectful. I can't just say, yo, this is your mom now. Now, you do
right.
have situations to where people are so fucking unreasonable, you ain't got no other choice but to just do what you got to do, live your life, and however you got to live it. You understand what I'm saying? Some people,
Right.
like I had a grandmother, it just wasn't happening. Wasn't gonna be no village, wasn't gonna be none of that shit. You understand what I'm saying? It didn't matter how
You know,
reasonable that shit was. You feel me?
and and I've seen, and even in reverse, I've seen situations where, you'll have, your husband or the man that you're with, and y'all have children, right? And a woman is not allowing, a lot of times, let's just say the woman is not allowing the man to see his children.
Oh yeah, that
That
happens a
man,
lot.
at some point, that man needs to say why. We really have to start holding each other accountable, because I've seen that happen as well. I've seen that bitterness of a woman from, using their children as pawns, but a man saying, yo, that's dead ass wrong to keep him away from his child.
Oh yeah,
You
now
understand?
on the real
So there
side,
has to
now
be, there
that's
has
some
to
real
right.
shit. That's
There
some
has
real
to be
ass
respect
shit right there.
on both sides. You have to respect the father of the children,
And,
and you also have to respect the mother of the children. I think that is what is lacking, because if the man that I'm dealing with has a child and I love that child because that's a connection to him, there's no way in hell I should be disrespecting the mother of that child. There's
and the
no way.
mother
I don't
and the
see.
mother shouldn't
And
be
but see, that's
disrespecting
what
you either.
happens more times than none. That's
Oh,
what
they gotta
happens more
tell me.
times.
Trust me, I know this shit all too well. Goddamn it, I can tell you the goddamn end of that movie. I can tell you front to back what that shit is like. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking about a fucking war zone. You'd rather go to goddamn Iraq than deal with that shit in the living room sometime. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because sometimes like real talk. My grandmother, she was a short woman, but she could set it the fuck off. You understand what I'm saying? So you
Right.
know when you again when you talking about children, first of all, you're talking about gifts.
Hmm.
Everybody can't even have a fucking child.
Hmm.
So if something higher than you thought enough for you to give you a healthy child, why the hell would you decide I'm gonna handicap the fuck out of my kid? That's like your kid coming out of the womb and you just breaking their legs. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
If you break their spirit, that's worse than breaking their leg. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to, and that's where the selflessness comes in. And a lot of times, let's keep it 100. Our children can't have the other parent based on some selfish shit within the other parent. You feel what I'm saying? It has
Right.
nothing to do with the performance of the other parent. You feel what I'm saying? So, but that's another subject. We talk
Right.
about that shit all goddamn day. You feel what I'm saying? We need notes on that shit right there. As a matter of fact, we need participants with that particular conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
We do.
other
We
people
do.
need to be, and because there's other scenarios. And when you're talking about a situation like that, it's a lot of things I didn't think about. I can only think from my experience. You
Right.
have your
Right.
experience, but it's some other experiences that we ain't thinking about that we probably need to build upon. You understand
I
what I'm
think
saying?
so too. I
So,
agree. I think
you,
so too.
but I think in essence, the best way to have a great relationship goes right back to the golden rule. You just treat people how you want to be treated. I don't think that's hard. You know what I mean? If I deal with you like I want to be dealt with and you did the same thing, how can we have a bad relationship?
I think the biggest problem with that is one, people are jumping, like we said before, people are jumping into relationships. People are selfish and or in another, way of thinking about it. A lot of people don't even know who they are. Do you feel what I'm saying? Let alone how they should be treated, because they have a misconception of what love is, or what being treated good is as well. So sometimes people, they really don't care how someone treats them, and it goes and it shows by how they treat other people. Because if somebody is constantly rude and ignorant and disrespectful, then that's, in my opinion, because I'm gonna treat people how I want to be treated. I'm gonna treat people with love. I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to treat you with respect. But the moment that you show out, that's telling me how you want to be treated. And so, when the roles reversed and I'm treating you, I'm pulling a you on you. A lot of people, they upset now. You know what I'm saying? And so
don't be
I
pulling
also
me on me. Don't be pulling me on me. Two wrongs don't make a right. All right. Don't be doing that shit. All right. Two wrongs don't make a right. All right.
I'm just saying that
Somebody got to be the bigger person in this situation. Hell, don't be doing the dumb shit I did. What's wrong with you, woman? You supposed to be smarter than me. Shit. Just keep it 100. I thought you was more mature than me. Why'd you do the same dumb shit I did? But
yeah, don't pull that card now.
No, I'm just saying, don't be pulling the me on me. I don't, don't be doing that. That's rude. That's rude. That didn't feel good. That didn't feel good.
Right.
Don't be doing that. That's rude. Your motive was wrong. Your motive was wrong.
Oh.
Your motive was wrong. My heart can't take that right there. It just can't take it.
I think we had, huh?
Don't be pulling on me and shit. No, don't do that. I didn't mean to do it.
We
But
know.
I did.
Right, that's just evidence that we do know better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well,
Sometimes
see, that's the thing.
we just choose not to
Man,
do
you
it.
do know better. I know you know better. Shit, you think I don't know you know better? I know you know better. Well, you know better. Shit. Playing games. Playing games. When I did it, I didn't know no better. I was lost.
Oh,
But when
so
you did
that's
it, it was revenge. See, when you did it, it was fucking revenge. That makes it bad. Your motive was wrong. Your motive was wrong.
Oh, I'm gonna let that slide for right now. We'll talk about that another
Let me go and
time.
get that off though. Let me get that off on a Monday night. Y'all let me get that off on a Monday night. You dig? We working out our kinks here. You gotta let me get them off now. Don't be doing two wrongs. Don't make it right.
I definitely agree, and I also feel that once we have a disagreement, or I feel like some arguments shouldn't be had more than once. You know what I'm saying? So if we understand that as well, okay, people are open to make mistakes, but if we have a discussion about it and we've had a whole full-fledged argument about it, I also feel that we should be able to resolve that issue. Then it should never come up again.
Argument. That's a bad
And
word.
I don't think that's happened. I don't think that's happening either. That's how my mother raised me. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have an argument, hey, get it all out you. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of it, there should be a resolution. You should know what your man don't like. He should know what you don't like, and y'all need to, go ahead and hash it out if you must. But it shouldn't be something that you repeat, because you should have learned right now. You should know now.
I guess my first question to that is, okay, why are we arguing? That doesn't sound like a conversation of love. Okay, I'm gonna need the love. The love ain't in the room right now. We're arguing. You know what I mean? It sounds like some old muscles between the eyebrows, sweating, perspirating, talking all loud and shit. Ain't no resolve, man. It's just two niggas mad in the room. You know what I mean? One just a male nigga, one just female nigga. Yeah, that ain't gonna get you nowhere, right? So you got to figure out a better way to exert this energy and have this conversation, right?
Right.
And all that arguing, it's a lot of energy just wasted. And again, you just wasted a bunch of energy, and you tired. You don't feel good at the end of it. Your head hurt and shit. And it be over some ego shit in most cases, right? Now, First of all, is the damn crime big enough for me to leave you? No, if we sit here arguing about the shit, no, it's not, right? Because otherwise, I'm the fuck gone. I ain't finna argue about shit. So if we arguing about the shit, ain't nobody going nowhere, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
what the fuck are we arguing now? I think, if we arguing, we probably talking at the wrong time. Cool heads always prevail. So sometimes it's just best to go in a fucking separate corner till you cool off and you can really talk about it in a way that can bring about resolve. You know what I mean? And if the tension too high, sometimes you just gotta fuck it out. This is the only way you can deal with it. You all that damn fighting and shit. At least if you tired after the fucking, at least you have your head don't hurt. You tired and you sleepy, but you feel better about even the person that you was just about to argue with. You feel a lot better about everything, and chances are after the fucking y'all gonna calm down and be able to talk it out and go to sleep. All that fucking and fight, all that damn throwing pots and pan, ain't nobody got no nut from that. It don't feel good. We got holes in the wall. The goddamn police done came, and ain't nobody going nowhere. That's bullshit. Calm your ass down. Go take a bath. Work that shit out. Rub some back or something. Why you talking about all that goddamn motherfucker? What did you do? What the fuck you been? All that bitch. All that shit ain't gonna do nothing. And at the end of the day, it's very unplayer. It's very anti-player. It's so uncool.
Right.
It don't show the kids no resolve. It don't show, the kids got more resolve than most of the adults these days. The adults so on edge. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You gotta come up with ways to deal with all of that aggression and energy. We got other ways to work that shit out. Tripping.
Right. Right. I agree. I definitely agree, and I think that that's definitely the strongest source of energy between a man and a woman.
It don't get no stronger, right? Shit. Sometimes you got to get close. You got to get close. You got to get close to work it out. You can't be across the room. You got to get closer in each other's ear, work that shit out. While you're open. You got to be open to one another. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
I remember, I remember, something that my mother used to say. Definitely, a lot of people may, we can always go back to what people call a good book. But even outside of that, one thing my mother taught me, or used to reiterate to me, is that you don't go to sleep upset or angry. You know what I'm saying? And you also, my mother never encouraged me when I was on the discussion of being married. You don't need a big old king size bed. You shouldn't have a bed so big that when you are upset that you can't touch each other, even if it's just your leg.
I don't know now. Sometimes you're gonna have to get away from me. It's hot. It's hot in here. It's hot.
No, not
hot. Go on now.
That goes against everything you just said.
Well, no, I'm just saying if it's hot, like it's really hot outside, you don't want nobody up on you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's hot. It's hot. It's hot. So what's she saying? You need a queen size, a full,
Yeah, a queen size I think is comfortably well, because you're gonna roll over it. Sometimes
I know what you're doing. You subliminally discriminating against the man. You don't want the king bed, you want the queen bed. I know what you're doing. So you think you're slick. I know what's going on. But on the real side, like for real, like, I think that depends on how you and your mate sleep, because this is wild. You know what I mean? They kick you out the bed. Right. But your mama had a good point. That California king size probably ain't best for a couple. That probably ain't the best thing.
Right. Because even if you roll over and you sleep, sometimes it's nothing like that touch.
Well, you gotta have that touch now. That touch is good now, unless you're arguing. You see, don't nobody even get no sleep when you're arguing. Neither one of y'all sleep well. 2 hours of sleep trying to operate the next day. Now you're pissed off the next day.
Right.
Sometimes when it's get too heated, y'all just got to, I think, honestly, the reason I say it is because I honestly believe sex is a couple's way of fighting without fighting. It's like, because in essence, it gives both people control over one another. Period. They both in control at that. Both of them are weak for one another at that particular time. You understand what I'm saying? So all
Right.
the punching and shit. No, what is the punching for? It's hollering and shit. That ain't the love. That ain't the love. I signed up for the love. I'm just gonna keep it 100. When I signed up,
Right.
it was for the love. Goddamn it, that's what I'm here for. I don't know about that other shit.
Right.
I
I
want to
agree with you
fight. I go to boxing
100%.
class. Goddamn it, fuck
I
karate
feel
class
you.
or something when I want to fight. Shit, I ain't coming home to fight now.
Right. I heard somebody today made a post, one of my Facebook friends. It was like, ladies, less nagging and more gagging.
Damn right. Now that's gonna you want some shit. Now that whoever put that up was the equivalent to Einstein. Goddamn it! All that goddamn nagging ain't gonna get you shit. But that gagging, you are finna. I don't know what you want, but you finna get it. You getting it. Goddamn it! The gagging,
Just in the middle. Right in the middle
motherfucker
of the
working too
argument.
hard. Y'all working too hard, thinking this shit too much. You got to go back to the talents in which you were born with. Education is a
You was
good
a
thing.
funny.
Formal education is a good thing, but do not ever lose the basic education. You understand what I'm saying? Real talk.
Right.
Real talk. Shit.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree with you on that. I definitely think that we definitely need to get back into, more lovemaking, and
Oh
actually
gosh.
redirecting some of this energy that we have, because I don't think that we're directing it in the right place. We're using it, we're moving and making decisions in anger. We're making and decisions in spite of, you know what I'm saying, without actually, really working it out. So I think this was a good show.
I think it's a good conversation, and the more we talk, the more we're gonna have more ideas to talk more. And I think we should
Right.
figure out how to we got to involve some people. If not next week, we got to have us a panel in the next couple of weeks. We got to talk to the people.
Right.
What I
I
mean? We got to
agree.
talk. We got to talk to the people. We got to get the people on here. So next couple of days we talk and we'll figure out how to get the people on. What I mean? We got to talk to the people though.
I agree. I agree.
I mean, we got to get the brothers and the sisters on here to talk about it. What I mean? They got some shit to say too. They got some shit to say.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So that's definitely be the goal, because the big vision is definitely to have an interactive audience, to have men and women involved in a discussion all at once. So I definitely that's definitely something that we need to be striving on making possible. I'm not sure if next week, just because of this software that we're trying to implement, because we're still having, we still, we're having some humble beginnings, which I'm actually very thankful for, because as we grow, just going back in time and looking at where we are now, I think it's going to be beautiful and amazing. So, but it's definitely necessary to bring more, more voices and more, because, two people are definitely strong, but a village is always so much stronger. And so if we can start building and working toward those of like minds as well, especially in the premise that we're talking in reference to Black power, because Black power is man, woman, and child. There's no way around it. And so we're not going to restore our power. We're not going to restore our families. We're not going to restore our communities and our neighborhoods if we're not willing to work together and actually have open and honest discussions. So I'm all for it. I'm very excited. I can't wait. I've actually reached out to a few people in reference to actually coming on, and people from different walks of life, different types of, some lawyers, some homemakers, some, some doctors that deal in mental health. We have a lot of brilliant people that we can definitely bring on. And so, over time, I think that we will be able to have some real good discussions that can turn into where we want to go as well, live workshops, and and places where we can actually have real open dialogue and start having some conflict resolution, having some some outlined formulas that we already know work. We already know that working together is going to be what's best for us all, because before integration, before we were segregated and it was just us, we depended on each other at that point, because integration really kind of messed us up, trying to be involved in and other people's ways of life and how they moved, and doing, looking for what they're looking for instead of working together. And so I do feel that once we get back to that, then we're going to definitely see a lot of different, and there might be small changes, maybe not, it will be small. It's baby steps. I think baby steps is the best way to describe it. But I don't find any of it impossible, at all. I think that all things are possible when the black man and the black woman come together and unite on our issues and on our problems and building and working on our families. I think that we can really do everything. And I'm looking forward to those days and those times when we actually do bring more people on. So I'm in agreement with you as well. So we have come to the close of our show. We always end up going over, running our mouths. But on behalf of him, her, us live, I'm her. We will be back on next Monday at 9 o'clock. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Please share this video if you have any comments or questions or, input. We definitely want your input as well. So definitely subscribe, share, and comment, and give us some feedback as to, ways that we can improve and what type of discussions. You can always email us at himherusdiscussions@gmail.com. You can always email us and let us know what you would like to see us talk about, what you would like us to see in a workshop that we're going to be bringing. Most likely in the fall, we'll be moving toward workshops. But right now, we definitely want to have some people to come on and have some panel discussions as well in the future. So with that being said, peace, love, Black Power family. We love you. We out.